The mighty barbarian grips his sword as the horde of goblins charges in, using the hilt of his blade as a makeshift hammer to take goblins down one after another. He finds an axe and begins using it as well, making the massacre much more bloody and efficient. Seeing how powerful he is, the goblins decide to flee the battlefield, but that's when a bigger one appears. The barbarian blocks his strike, and this demonic goblin urges him on, wanting a good fight. Seeing this, the bloody barbarian gets ready to show his mettle. But how did we get here? Nobody could have imagined something like this. He fell asleep after a long day of work, drinking a beer and playing a game, like most of his days. When he woke up, however, he was inside the world of the game, as none other than Khadim. Now, one of the NPCs he's adventuring with advises him to be careful, as stronger demons are swarming them. He charges in despite that, jumping mightily in the air before crashing down on said demons, splitting them in half with ease, making them fall in a pool of their own blood. As is expected from the demon realm, they are facing high-level demons right from the start. The path to the great demon is going to be much tougher than anticipated. That said though, he knows he's about to get a stern talking to from Melissa after this. After she blows up the demons around him, she screams out, as she specifically told him not to rush in alone like that. Another warrior approaches, killing a bunch of demons with one elegant strike. This is the hero Gale. She should save the scolding for after the battle, as dealing with these beasts is more important. Melissa prepares another fireball, and notes that it's annoying how by the book of a hero he is. Another woman prays for them, bringing the spirit of Atala to fight with them. She is worried that Khadim is pushing too hard for their sake. He should take better care of himself. The demon that was lunging at her is instantly crushed by a stalwart man, who tells Kriral not to worry much, as Khadim has his reasons. This is the priest and priestess, Gordon and Cyril. Gordon believes it's wise to finish the monsters and then talk to him, and they all agree. Khadim thinks of himself. He is the vanguard of this hero party, formed to defeat the great demon king. He is also the great warrior of Atala, the god of struggle and wilderness. Most importantly though, he is a transmigrator in this game. The main story of this RPG was quite simple. A hero who received divine revelations to slay the great demon, gathered companions to defeat him. Judging by how these demons looked vile and dark, some people enjoyed this adventure with these characters. However, for a modern person who has never even wrung a chicken's neck to endure, this world is extremely harsh. Drinking a bunch of demon blood, Khadim activates his unique trait, Blood Berserker, making him transform into something akin to a demon too. Using his powers, he pushes and pushes. If he just kills the damn demons, then this entire world, this game, will all be behind him. He continues eating demons. As he wishes to get out of this world, he wants to get out, even if a day sooner, faster, even faster. After the massacre, he stands above an entire mountain of corpses, but he continues eating, too far gone to do anything else. Suddenly, a lithe demon approaches, but he swiftly grabs her by the neck, as he has vowed to devour all the demons, every last one of them. He will bathe in their blood. Suddenly, though, a light begins to take him out of his berserk state, and he sees that the one he was grabbing was none other than Melissa. He swiftly drops her and falls to his knees, not believing what he just did. This unique trait, the Blood Berserker, has some fine print to read. Due to the demonic energy, one will gradually lose one's sanity. Has it finally gotten to the point where he can no longer recognize his own comrades? This line, which in the game was just some flavor text to spice up the character, has now become reality, and the madness of the flesh eats away at his mind, consuming him. The demon's blood, which once tasted sour, is now sweet, and he wants it. He needs it. It's getting harder and harder to control the madness from within. Can he even stay sane until they deal with the great demon? If he cannot, then what will happen to him? He steels himself, however, as before that happens, before he allows himself to go, and with hunger, he will kill the great demon, and all of them, every single damn demon that's in this world. Suddenly, he is taken out of his ruminations by Melissa, who is fine, so he shouldn't blame himself. He was just trying to protect them all this time, so now it's their turn to protect him. Cyril and Gordon arrive, both vowing to do everything in their power to help him not lose himself in the maelstrom of the blood, but he must also fight against the madness and protect himself until the very end. Gordon tells him not to worry too much about it. He will beat some sense into him whenever he has to. Gale notes that if they've had enough rest, they should head out. They have to defeat the great demon king together and save the world after all. Khadim is touched. He grabs Gale's hand, and so they push through their journey, their bodies and minds becoming like tattered rags. Eventually, at some point, Khadim unleashes the last strike, decapitating the demon king for good. His body convulses and falls with a loud thud as his blood sprays all around. Melissa wonders if it really is over, and Gordon notes that by the grace of their goddess, it seems to be so. Before Melissa can say anything more, a bright light descends over the Demon King, and Cyril screams out about Khadim. He, however, has already dropped his axe and is going towards the light, running to it. Gale tells him to stop. How can he go in there when he doesn't know what awaits him? Khadim looks behind him, noting that it was an honor to be with them in person, and not just watching from behind the screen. Truly, they were his only comrades. As he enters, the light shines even brighter, and then none at all as it disappears. Cyril falls to her knees as the sky begins to show signs of the sun. Khadim continues walking. He is in a dark place. Nothing seems to have changed. This is the same darkness as when he first crossed over. He wonders what he should do when he gets back. Maybe grab a cold beer, maybe sleep for days. But what he knows he's not doing is ever playing a medieval fantasy game again. In truth, it does bother him that he couldn't say a proper goodbye to his comrades. However, he has to accept reality. He will never be able to meet them again. Khadim, the great warrior, is gone for good. Amongst all that darkness, he approaches a bright light, which he thinks is the exit back to reality. But upon taking a closer look, his eyes widen. No, this is a dream, right? This can't be happening now. His mind broken, he begins laughing like a maniac, his jaw unclenching harder than ever before. He continues laughing as the light envelops him, as this wasn't his escape, but a new game plus, meaning that the game has restarted for him. He wakes up in the usual spawn zone for Khadim, escorted as a prisoner. The other prisoners note that they are innocent. The one who killed that woman was the son of the baker. Another notes that the only thing he stole was a measly bronze ring. He swears he didn't know how a silver necklace just fell in his pocket. One of the guards tells them to shut up, and they all turn away. The guard noting that they love to run their mouths when they are trash. One of the prisoners is more polite though, and notes that he might have been wrongfully accused. The soldier asks what he did, so the feeble man notes that he never sold demonic byproduct. Someone must have planted that on him, so he wants to meet with the person who inspected his bag. The soldier looks at him. Sometimes some people frame innocence to pad their achievements. He knows it's this bastard in front of them that did it, but for him to pull such things at such a young age, unfortunately he is a holy knight, and talking back to them means it's his head. He asks the prisoner how he dares to doubt a holy knight of Elga. If he is innocent, then he will be released safely. Until then, he should shut up and get in line. It's really a shame, but since a holy knight was involved directly, it's unlikely for this man to survive. He should hope that he's born with a better status in his next life. Putting all that aside though, how in the hell did they even manage to capture a barbarian? As they walk, Khadim wonders just what is going on. This body of his is familiar, but all his power from before is gone. The madness and guilt that ate away at his sanity also seem to have gone with it. According at that message that said New Game Plus, he basically started over. However, he does not get it. Even back in reality, the game never started this way. An old prisoner approaches him and hands a root, telling him to chew on it while they talk, which makes it less boring. Khadim looks at him, and the old prisoner explains that he was once helped by barbarians like him long ago. He reminded him of them, and this is not much, but it's all he has for repayment. Khadim decides to accept the gift and begins chewing, with the old man asking how he got caught. Khadim doesn't know, and the old man understands that there are many such cases after all. The holy knight and priests of the empire are way too hostile towards heretics nowadays, believing that believing in a different god is not a sin or wasn't. Khadim is puzzled. There is an empire on this continent? The old man is surprised he doesn't know about the Lucanian Empire, but Khadim knows that name. Isn't it a kingdom in the center of the continent? The old man notes it's far from that. They used to call it that, a long time ago. Khadim wonders, could he have now transmigrated into a parallel world with a different setting? He asks where they are going, and the old man guesses Lucan, the Empire's holy capital. Once they arrive there, the other prisoners will be summoned before the judges of Elga, and he will probably face Inquisition. Khadim guesses that means he won't die instantly, which is a relief. The old man tells him it's nothing to be relieved about. The Inquisitors are madmen addicted to torture. When they see a heretic like him, they only see him as a fun new toy to break. They will drive nails under his nails and pour boiling iron into his eyes. Suddenly, the holy knight in front impales the old man, killing him instantly. He tells everyone to listen. Anyone who dares to insult a knight of Elga will be vindicated of their sis with a swift death. He turns to Khadim and asks if he was the one who caused the commotion. If he doesn't want to end up like that fossil next to him, he should bow and beg for forgiveness. If he does so, he might be generous enough to let him live. In response, Khadim just smiles. The knight is angry that a heretic is daring to mock him, so he uses his spear to attack again. Khadim keeps smiling and catches the blade between his palms as it approaches. The knight tries to pull out of his grasp, demanding he let go, and Khadim obliges. the knight pulling so hard that he almost falls from his horse. Now he is mad. There is no more forgiveness. He will pass on swift judgment on him. Unfortunately for him, Khadim is already charging in with a shoulder bash. The strike creates a wave of air. The knight is knocked down, and the horse is dead on the spot. The knight gets up angrier than ever. How dare he have the gall to harm a holy knight? Khadim hoped to kill him in one strike, but even if a rookie, he is still a holy knight. He suddenly raises his spear in the air, and Khadim knows what this means. The knight calls out for Elga, the master of eternal light, and she bestows upon him a blessing to blast down all heretics in her name. With this newfound power, the knight charges in, and Khadim knows that he cannot hope to dodge this strike. He takes the full brunt of the spear, which sends him flying into a wagon, breaking it in half. The attack doesn't seem to have been fatal though. It only scratched him. The warrior is impressed that he survived such a strike. His durability is as brutish as his looks, it seems. Khadim thinks that even if he has kept his blood berserker trait, his stats are all reset. So he's struggling even against such a weakling. If he had something to eat though, even a low-level demon, he could easily defeat him. Suddenly though, a pungent stench hits him from behind, and he knows of only one thing that can smell like that. After the knight gets to him, he acknowledges that he is powerful, holding great strength, but this is as far as it will take him. He should receive forgiveness from God through his death. Suddenly though, that same pungent smell hits him, and he covers his nose in disgust. Seeing this, Khadim laughs, as it seems that the god he worships so much has chosen him. He breaks through the casket behind him to uncover the head of the demon, and just the smell is already making his blood boil. It's time to feast. He holds the demon head above him and crushes it down like an orange, drinking the beast's blood like water. The knight is simply stunned. He didn't expect to see something like this ever. Did this guy go mad after he hit him? He points at one of the lowly guards and tells him to finish off the barbarian. The peasant with barely any training faces Khadim, knowing that if he backs down, he will die. He charges in, but Khadim simply catches him and wipes his mouth clean. The soldier begs for his life, but Khadim simply crushes his head in response. This must have been a lesser demon he consumed, as it only has a basic strength enhancement effect, but it should be more than enough for this place. He screams out, his throaty roar causing the soldiers to shake and immediately drop their weapons to flee. The knight tells them to rally, form ranks, and subdue him, as he is unarmed and wounded. Anyone who flees from the battlefield will serve their life behind bars. As he continues his oh-so-heroic speech, Khadim shuts him up by throwing the demon head at him, making the graceful knight fall on his ass. With that, he begins running toward him, the knight swiftly getting up and using his holy powers once again, getting another blessing to match the barbarian in strength. Their clash occurs, and the knight thinks he has won. His spear clearly connected with something, so he should beg God for forgiveness. Khadim wonders what he's smiling about when he has just lost. It seems the barbarian has caught his spear between his armpit, and using it as leverage, unleashes a devastating strike on the pompous knight. He continues pummeling him as he lies on the ground, defenseless, but eventually, the knight begs for forgiveness, tears barely able to come out of his swollen eyes. He was wrong. He begs for his forgiveness. Khadim seemingly walks away, causing the knight to think that he will get him for this. No matter what, he will end his life. As he lies there, he suddenly hears a dragging sound as Khadim approaches, before standing over him once again. He honestly didn't expect him to start praying to his god even at a time like this, but he will indulge him, and prays he will be with his damned god in the afterlife. The knight cries as Khadim impales him, ending his miserable life once and for all. After that, he looks at the fleeing soldiers. Sure, he could let them go, but the lesson he got from his first playthrough says otherwise. After the soldiers are all breathing hard, having run a few miles, they think it's safe, but they are all suddenly impaled by their own spears. This is the lesson Khadim has taught himself, to never leave loose ends. 2 guards are in the bushes. They are even holding their breath so as not to get Khadim's attention, but he has already spotted them. With one well-placed spear, he kills both of them. The petty thief from before and the other prisoners approach, noting that watching him kill a holy knight was rather impressive, and they demand he get them out of their restraints. But in response, Khadim just decapitates the petty thief, his blood spraying on the other prisoners. His lesson also applies to them. No matter who they are, no matter how friendly he was, he never leaves loose ends. The last prisoner, soiling himself on the ground, asks why he is doing this. What did they do wrong? Khadim ignores his pleas for salvation and takes him out, having done so with the others as well. If he were to let them live, they would have surely gone around, talking about what they saw. Worst case scenario, a unit of high-ranking holy knights would have come to pursue him. He cannot afford such a risk, no matter who it is. The last prisoner is the framed merchant. He is cowering behind a bush, but it's not enough to keep him from Khadim's wrath. As he prepares to strike him down, the prisoner suddenly screams out that this is unfair and bows down to the barbarian with all his might. He pleads with him to spare him just this one time, as he really hasn't done a thing wrong, and he wishes to live. Khadim simply asks why he should spare him, and the merchant notes that his wife and child are waiting for him back home, and he was only captured because someone had framed him. Khadim guesses he is probably innocent, but that is no reason to spare him, so he should accept his situation. There would be more dignity in it. Suddenly, the merchant screams out, "Does he not need a guide?" Khadim asks what he means, so the man explains that he is a traveling merchant from Multana, of the Free Cities Alliance. He sells goods all over the continent, so there is nobody who knows the terrain better than he does. Khadim thinks that he could be useful, and wants to ask him a few questions. He said Lucanian was an empire. The Lucanian in his memory is definitely a kingdom. So has this Lucanian been an empire since its founding, or when did it become one? The merchant is taken aback by this question. Could this barbarian be from the wastelands beyond the mountain range? Unlike the barbarians that settled on the continent, if he is from beyond the mountains, it is possible that they lost contact with the known world for centuries at this point. Khadim asks why he is not answering. Perhaps he does not know. The merchant immediately begins explaining, this is year 248 of the imperial calendar, which means that it's been about 248 years since the founding emperor established the Lucanian Empire. Before that, as he said, it was the Lucanian kingdom. Khadim is surprised they have a new imperial calendar, but what year is it according to the old calendar? The merchant thinks about it for a little while, as they don't really use the old calendar system anymore, but around the year 1130, probably. Khadim is confused. The calendar commonly used on the continent is now considered old. Khadim bombards the merchant with questions, like what the state of the current continent is, what happened to the Elga faith, and what the demon realm is. The merchant notes that, as he explained earlier, Lucanian unified the continent about 300-ish years ago. Now the continent is basically divided into three powers. The Elga faith took the opportunity of the outbreak to expand in power and became what it is now. The demon realm is a taboo zone. Nobody has gone there, and those who have never returned, so they don't really know what might be happening there. Khadim is confused. How could nobody return alive from the demon realm? From Gale, Melissa, Gordon, and Cyril, he wants to know if he has ever heard these names. The merchant can't say he has, except for Melissa. He heard something along those lines before. He was sure it was someone with a name like that. Maybe it was Elisa, though. Khadim can't wrap his head around it. The heroes who conquered the demon realm and slayed their king have been forgotten. Is this world really a continuation of the first playthrough? After a bit of thinking, he asks why demons are running rampant in this continent. The merchant tells him that nobody has a clear answer. Some say that it's divine punishment from Elga, who was angered by the state of the world, while others say an archmage opened a gate to another world, and some claim it is a sign that terrible evil will descend on the world. The truth lies only behind the eyes of the Almighty God above them, though, or so he thinks. Khadim looks up in the sky and picks up his spear before walking a bit forward to gaze upon the steppe. Based on what his merchant has told him, this place is probably the continent he was playing on, about 300 years after his first playthrough. It wasn't enough that he was kicked out of his original world. Now he's been kicked out even of the world he managed to somewhat settle in. The knowledge he has is hundreds of years out of date, and his comrades, whom he parted with so long ago, are probably all dust. He looks behind him and wonders, to repeat such countless slaughters, is there even a reason to live on? To drink the blood of disgusting demons and suppress his madness? What guarantee is there now that he can return to his real world when he reaches the ending once more? What if this damned god gives him a new game plus, or even beyond that? He rips the spear in two and puts the blade to his neck, the merchant immediately asking what he is trying to do. Khadim thinks that if he starts the journey again, countless lingering attachments will remain within. If he's to meet his end at least, he wants to go out on his own terms. As he grips the spear tighter, he hopes that what he faces is not a room with an exit labeled game over. At this point, he would much rather take nothing. Suddenly, he remembers Melissa. When he asked her what she would do after the demonic threat was over, she wanted to teach mages, maybe build a tower, or something similar. Suddenly, he snaps back and asks the merchant about what he heard of Melissa. He is not entirely certain about the details, but he thinks it's the name of the first master of the Mage Tower, or something like that. Khadim sternly demands to know where the Mage Tower is, and the merchant notes that it's in a city called Vestana, at the eastern edge of the Free Cities Alliance. This is the central region of the Empire, so even if they leave now, it would take some 2 or 3 months to get there. Khadim falls silent for a bit, and then smiles. That damn woman. Why did she have to go and say that? Now he can't even die in peace. Khadim tells him to guide him there and use the fastest route, but the merchant notes that he still has a family he needs to take care of. He cannot waste so much time being a guide. Khadim completely understands. Then, as payment, he will give him the most precious thing he can give him, his life. With that, Khadim throws the spear down and commands the merchant to find the key, get the cuffs off, and grab anything they need, as he wants to go now. Amongst the rubble, he finds a sword, which should serve him for naught. It's not as good as a blessed weapon, but he can probably forge it into something decent upon using his unique trait. The Holy Knight spear is tempting, but a blessed weapon consecrated by priests will reject anyone but the Holy Knight. If only he could get his axe from the first playthrough. After the merchant packs up his bag, he thinks that at least he is alive, but as he goes to see what his new master is doing, he sees him draining blood from the demon and putting it in a flask. After getting equipped, their long journey to the Mage Tower officially begins. Much later, as the crows feast on the bodies of the dead, someone finds the knight's body, Linton Pelopus. He was called a fool through and through. Another knight notes that it appears everyone, soldier and prisoner, has been killed. He asks Lady Helia what they should do, and she tells Eden to find any clue. We can't just return to the Archbishop and report Linton dead. Eden understands, and she thinks on it. Just what kind of bastard dared to kill a holy knight? She can't fathom it, but whoever it was, they will pay the price for such insolence. As Khadim rests under the cool moon, the fire that they made begins to die down as it hasn't been fed for a time. The merchant is nowhere to be seen because, as expected, he is dashing across the forest, thinking that he got away. Now, he just needs to get as far as possible from that crazy bastard. He was already feeling like it was dangerous to escape the Empire on his own, so getting a traveling companion of sorts was a good thing. The problem is, however, that this traveling companion of his is the type to eat demons and slaughter people. This is how the merchant Duncan sees him, as a barbarian. It doesn't help that when he asked him if he wanted something to eat, like some jerky or dried potatoes he had stashed, he said nothing. When he gave him a nice warm coat to lie on as he slept, he said nothing. When he asked him how he even ended up in the Empire, nothing. This barbarian barely speaks, and he doesn't allow questions other than the necessary ones. No matter how much he looks at him, he just cannot read his intentions, if he even has any at all. He is unlike a person, and more akin to a wild beast. He felt like he was performing a circus act, just so that he wouldn't get bored and kill him. If that was the only problem, he would have endured it, probably. But the biggest problem of them all is that this barbarian takes 10 steps for every single step of his. Even if he doesn't look like it, he is a traveling merchant who is known to never tire and be quick. But this barbarian is on another level entirely. As soon as he points out where to go, he's already far ahead. And when he finally catches up to him, he does the same thing all over again. He glares at him until he arrives too, as if threatening to end his life if he stalls him too much from his unknown quest. Duncan knew that if he weren't his guide, they would be kilometers apart. Just what kind of legs does that man have? He was already too tired. If he kept following him at this pace, he might just collapse and die from exhaustion. At that moment, self-preservation became the only task in his mind, and this is why he's running now. His chance came sooner than he expected. Now that he is out of that dark forest, he will not be able to find which way he went, hopefully. Even with this, however, he cries as he left his bag there, which was basically his entire fortune. He had oil candles, soap, flints, a silver mirror, and more. Altogether, he would have set up a stall in the city with ease. But if he went back to get it now, he would definitely awaken that slumbering beast. He still has his life though, and all those things he can rebuild with time and effort. Duncan stops for a bit under the cold moon. He doesn't know how far he ran, and the scenery looks safe to him. But at this rate, it will take that barbarian a while to figure out where he went. Just as he thinks he's free, Khadim asks where he is going in such a hurry. Is he perhaps running away? But why is he doing that? Doesn't he need the promised payment? Duncan, knowing full well that he can't defend himself, falls on his knees, noting that he has committed the greatest crime. He shouldn't have forgotten the mercy he showed him when he saved his life. He apologizes profusely and begs for his forgiveness. Khadim crouches down to his level and notes that he isn't looking for an apology but a reason. If he doesn't fix the reason, he will just run away again. So he will ask again, why did he run away? Duncan sheepishly explains that it was because his pace was too fast for him to keep up with. If he kept following at that speed, he felt like he would have collapsed and died. After explaining, he thinks that surely he is a dead man, but Khadim just notes that they should go back, and adds that he will walk a little slower. Duncan is confused beyond his wits, but still follows Khadim back to their makeshift camp. Khadim watches him sleep, clearly having a nightmare of sorts about him. Khadim thinks he was kind of in the wrong here. This hurried pace of his is a habit he formed in his first playthrough, as every moment felt urgent, like he was constantly being chased. The demon realm was a barren and hostile place. There was never enough food or water to properly feed them, and rest was just distant words. Since he advanced by drinking demon blood, he never knew he would be consumed by its madness, and the entire group would save every single moment, even from eating and sleeping, so they could hasten their steps. They probably wanted to make sure he didn't go fully mad. Unlike the demon realm, though, their current surroundings are not that dangerous. There is plenty of water and drink, and while the madness might just return one day, at least for now, it is no problem. Besides, slowing down is actually a good thing, as the traveling merchant is a rather useful guide. As they come to a crossroads, Duncan explains that there's quite a lot of friction around the borders. There are a lot more guards, so they should take a bit of a detour and go through a less guarded area instead. Khadim understands that if he thinks so, then they will do just that, something Duncan is quietly happy about. Khadim still has the map of the continent in his head, but it's a 300 years old map. Without a competent guide, he would surely get lost one day. As they walk, Duncan explains that most holy knights either capture heretics on sight or obsess over their records so much that they will hunt down nearby demons with a fire in their eyes. A barbarian like himself won't be able to rest easy until they reach the territory of the Free City Alliance. Now Khadim understands why it's so hard to run into demons, even though they are apparently running rampant across the continent because of these holy knights. This blood he's storing will soon be unusable, so he will need to secure some fresh blood, just in case he needs to fight. That night, as they continue to walk through a thicket, they find a village, which Duncan thinks is a pioneer settlement. It would be best if they asked for food and a bed here, as there are no good spots to camp around the area. Khadim finds it strange, however, that there is not a single light on, and it's dinner time, yet the gate is open with no guards. Duncan wonders if this is an abandoned village, and that's what Khadim would like to check. Duncan advises against it, as they don't know what the people fled from, maybe a monster or demon. That's when some low growling appears out of the village, but Khadim still pulls out his blade, as a monster or a demon would be quite the good tidings. As they enter, Duncan sheepishly follows Khadim and asks what happened, as this does not look like the average abandoned village. Khadim stops at the only house with an open door and blocks Duncan, who peers around him, just as a demonic goblin lunges toward them, screaming out as it does. Khadim barely moves as he cuts the beast in half, which falls right next to Duncan. Even more goblins come out of the dark home. Khadim thinks that goblins are not aggressive. On the contrary, in fact they are normally quite timid and avoid people. So for these creatures to turn aggressive means some entity has gotten involved. It looks like they came to the right place after all. Another goblin lunges at him, which Khadim easily dispatches, scaring his brothers. The second goblin screams out as Khadim lunges and decapitates him, but the third one actually throws a hatchet at him while he does that, which Khadim manages to block. With that, he takes care of the third goblin too, splitting him in half from the chest. Duncan looks at the corpses before him and asks if it is over, but Khadim can't say for certain just yet. Suddenly, a louder, more throaty roar can be heard from the house, and a much larger goblin peers over at them, holding what seems to be a girl. The beast screams at the two, but Khadim just throws his blade at its head, killing the thing instantly, and it drops the girl. Duncan asks what he would have done if he hit the kid, but Khadim notes that he doesn't miss. He takes the binds off the girl, and immediately stares the frightened child down, noting that he has some questions. Before he can say any more, Duncan intervenes, noting that they are not bad people, and gives her a licorice root to chew. He calms her down slowly but surely, making Khadim note that he's quite good with kids. Duncan notes he has a son back home, just about her age in fact. The girl starts to slowly speak, calling out her mother, making the others think that she wants her, but in fact, the girl says that both her parents abandoned her. This shocks the two, Duncan wondering why they would do such a thing, but Khadim understands. Suddenly someone calls out, the mother who left her child behind, as the villagers have come back. She hugs her child tightly, clearly not doing what she did because she wanted to. The villagers are shocked to see the dead goblins and ask Khadim if he did this. He denies those claims. It's his blade that did it. This is a rather predictable story, but he still wants to know why exactly they offered their children as sacrifices to a damn demon, no less. After getting inside, the village head explains that this forest was originally swarming with goblins. The soil in their old land was spent, so they set fire to this area and settled here. When they saw the fire, most of the goblins decided to run for their lives, and everything was peaceful for a time. But something strange happened. Some time ago, the goblins that remained in the forest started to attack. They were ferocious, and their casualties kept rising each day. The damage piled up, and they couldn't stand idly by. So they gathered all the able-bodied men of the village and went to the goblin den. But that's where they saw it. They didn't have enough strength to face the goblins, let alone a demon. So, Unable to withstand their offensive, they gave up and surrendered to the demon. He didn't kill them. Instead, he explained that every week, he would come to their village, and from each household, he demanded the most useless child as a sacrifice. Duncan guesses this means the other kids have been taken, but how could they do this? Are they no longer sane? Has fear made them crazy? The village head screams out, asking who they were supposed to sacrifice. Their grown sons, their daughters who were on the cusp of marriage. Duncan screams that they could have just left, but the village head notes that they already planted their crops, and they would have starved. In response to this shouting match, Khadim smashes the table into pieces. He asks how many horns the demon had on his head, and the village head doesn't remember them having any. Upon a bit of thinking, Khadim picks up his sword and tells them to lead the way. Since they are so weak, he has no choice but to take care of the demon for them. At that moment, Khadim thought that if there are no horns, it's a lesser demon, and with no features to distinguish it from other demons, it's probably a primordial, which is something he should be able to handle. As the village head led the way, he apologized, as they did not have anything to offer as payment. The entire village was barely scraping by as is. Khadim explains that he's doing it because he has to, and not for any payment. The village head thanks him profusely, but Khadim would like to keep this axe, as he only has one weapon. The village head agrees, and eventually they arrive at the cave, and the villagers immediately note that they will go back and wait, as the goblins might suddenly attack their unprotected village. Duncan asks what they are saying. Did all of these people really come to act as guides? Khadim tells him that's enough. Cowards are only a hindrance on the battlefield. Just the two of them will go, as he needs a torchbearer while he fights that demon. This is not what Duncan had in mind previously, but seeing the villagers retreating already, he follows Khadim inside the damp cave. Duncan expected him to blame or scold them at least a little, as not only did they offer their children to a demon, but they are cowards who are running away from redemption. Khadim, in turn, asks if he has ever faced a living demon. Duncan has not. He's only seen demon corpses at the black market a few times. Khadim explains that when a human comes face to face with a demon, their mentality changes forever. All that noble will to live is shattered, and only fear, combined with a need for survival, remains. A few humans overcome that fear and can stand against the demon, but he cannot expect such fortitude from ordinary villagers. Duncan still doesn't get how they could just sacrifice their own children like that. Even beasts know the value of their spawn. Khadim explains that sometimes, for one to survive, one must cross through the muddiest of filth. It was a choice they made for survival, so they cannot just condemn them. Didn't he hear them? They said they had no other choice. Duncan understands, but even so, from the children's perspective, it must have felt like the entire world had abandoned them. Truly, what good is a life that survives by abandoning humanity? This makes Khadim stop in place, as after all he's been through, walking through a sea of blood just to return to reality, his perception about these things has warped. It is possible that the traveling merchant, a character from a game, has a better grasp of morality than he does. If he ever returns like this, will he be able to live a proper life? Duncan wonders if he said something wrong, so he changes the subject, wondering if the children who were kidnapped are still alive. Khadim steels himself and notes that if the demon were less cunning and wicked, it would have killed them. But if it's a cunning one, it will definitely keep them alive. For now, at least. As Duncan wonders if it shouldn't be the opposite, he turns around to see Khadim ready to swing his axe, which he thinks is against him. But Khadim actually throws it in front of them, as he detected a goblin even before it made its presence known. With this attack, the others charge in, and as Duncan wonders where they even came from, Khadim tells him to keep his torch high. He charges in, piercing a goblin to hit another, before grabbing that same goblin he pierced and cutting another. However, after swinging, he hits a stalagmite. Their presence will make it hard to swing wide in this already enclosed space. The goblins growl and make noises as they see Khadim wrap some leather around his blade, and they charge in after that. Khadim, however, is now using his blade as a bludgeoning weapon, farming the goblins like the trash mobs that they are. He remembers the axe he just threw and picks it up, using both weapons to annihilate the goblins in all sorts of ways. Duncan can just watch as this happens, but he's completely stunned that just one man can do this. The goblins, knowing that they cannot win, begin to run away in fear. Khadim notes that they are going after them. They've lost most of their group, and since goblins are cowards by nature, they are going to return to the demon in all likelihood. As they walk throughout the dark cave, Duncan notes that he thought the path would get narrower, but it opened up in a wide space again, much wider than the entrance. However, it feels like the walls were carved out to widen the area. Could this be the base of the goblins? Khadim suddenly smells something foul and tells Duncan to focus, as the demon is nearby. He should keep his distance, but not run away. The goblins might track him and kill him in a pack. Just as he is about to explain more, the demon suddenly strikes, Khadim managing to block the attack. The demon stares him down, as he has not seen him before. He is not a villager either. This will be rather amusing then, as he was getting pretty bored of just standing around. Khadim looks at him, as he is different from what he was told. Horns. They are small, but they are still growing. This is bad, as this fight has turned much harder. The simple fact that the demon is growing horns means it's evolving from a lesser to an intermediate demon. The demon itself likes his struggling expression, and within a second lunges at him. Khadim barely able to block the incoming attack. The demon reveals he loves humans. They are weak and rather obedient. Khadim only blocked out of instinct, as he lost track of him. But as he thought, this is not the power and agility of a lesser demon. The demon notes that he killed too many of his precious little goblins, and he's starting to dislike humans because of this. He must beg for forgiveness. Khadim thinks that a lesser demon can be defeated by a dozen or so able-bodied men without training. However, against an intermediate demon, victory isn't guaranteed even with a squad of elite soldiers. The demon wishes him to give one more chance at life, but he will not use that arm. In fact, he will cut it off with that axe of his, then chew and eat it all to the bone. If he consumes his own flesh without leaving a scrap of it, then he will let him live. Khadim knows that in his current state, it would be difficult to fight a proper intermediate demon, but now, while its horn is still growing, he might just have a chance against it. The demon is confused. Is he not going to cut his arm off? Is he not going to listen to him perhaps? Khadim pins his sword into the ground and notes that he's been noisy for quite some time now, but he doesn't listen to bloodbags like him. He cuts the flask of demon blood, letting it fall out, and the demon is confused. He knows that smell, knows it well, but why does a human have access to that? Khadim pays him no mind as he gulps the flask before discarding it on the ground. He begins to shake, and suddenly he screams out in a fiendish rage that scares even the cocky demon. Unfortunately for him, he is against the truest enemy of any demon. Khadim is glad that the blood was quite old at this point, but it still had an effect. He feels that it won't last long. He has to end this quickly. The demon is surprised by himself. For a second, he was actually fearing a mere human, but that simply cannot be, as he has gained new power too. For this insolence, he will have to kill him now, so he charges in, his claws extending further than before. Khadim knows that demons are cunning little creatures. If it had sensed danger, it wouldn't have hesitated to flee the area. Perhaps its judgment has been clouded by the surge of power from the horns that just started growing. As the demon strikes, Khadim can finally see its movements and strikes back with his axe, making the demon recoil from the impact, which seems to have chipped its deadly claws. Unfortunately, Khadim's axe has chipped too, the steel not being made for battle. If he keeps on fighting like this, it is only a matter of time before the axe fully shatters, so he picks up his blade. It doesn't matter though. Even if the axe were to break, he will use his sword, and if the sword were to break in turn, he would use his mighty fists. The demon looks at its chipped claws with increased anger and screams out, as this is simply unforgivable. Khadim suddenly charges in and slashes down with his blade, forcing the demon to block once again, but he is actually being pushed to the ground. He quivers, now realizing the full power of the human in front of him. Khadim doesn't stop there and prepares to hit him with the axe, but the demon throws off his blade and barely has enough time to get out of the way. He never expected such immense destructive force. His legs are shaking just from the impact. How can a mere human have this power? The demon roars as it charges forth again, trying to take Khadim's head off cleanly, but he dodges and shoulder bashes into the beast, making it recoil backwards. Khadim does not stop there, however, as he swings his blade mightily at the demon's neck, who barely dodges, but Khadim uses that same momentum to strike with his axe, this strike being much more powerful than the last, which seemed to have been a feint. The demon realizes how dangerous this next strike is, so he pushes himself back with all the force he can muster, Khadim destroying the stalagmite next to them completely. The demon puts his hand up as he huffs loudly. He demands to know what Khadim is, as it's clear to anyone that he is not a human. Khadim does not answer, and instead just stares at the beast, his eyes clear, purposeful, driven only by the want of battle. The demon knows that it cannot be a human. It must be some type of monster that has taken the shape of a human to deceive him. Knowing this, the demon jumps up, holding on for dear life to a stalagmite. He is being overpowered easily, and the beast is reading his attacks. It's useless for him to charge head-on at this point, but what else can he do? Suddenly, he hears Duncan screaming. It seems that he is turning some of his goblins away, but the demon is more interested in what he is turning them away with. That fire. If only that fire were gone, things would be much easier. With that, He begins jumping from stalagmite to get to the light bearer, but Khadim puts his sword down and grabs his axe in a throwing position. It is pretty obvious that this demon is aiming for his guide, but he will not allow him to have his way. Khadim sees that the demon is pretty quick. If he just aims for him, he will likely dodge, so he will have to do something else. He grips the axe tighter, aiming to destroy the stalagmites. The demon notices as soon as he unleashes the powerful throw, which destroys what he was climbing on, making the beast fall with a loud thud. As the demon tries to uncover the dust from its eyes, Khadim takes this chance to charge in and impale its face. The demon manages to catch the blade before he goes further, and Khadim notes he's quite handsome with this new look. The demon tries to swing at him out of desperation and frustration, but Khadim is only surprised that he is still alive after he pierced his head. He summons more of his power in his swinging arm, and against the protests of the demon, pulls the blade upwards, completely slicing its brain in half. With the demon's death, the buff disappears. Khadim is glad that it even lasted this long in the first place. The goblins all look at him with fear in their eyes, shaking, not knowing what to do. It seems their ferocity is gone. Now that the demon is dead, they will not be affected by the demonic energy, but that doesn't mean anything. They have already become bloodthirsty beasts once. He will take care of every single one of them before he leaves. The second goblin tries to run away, fearing for his life, but Khadim provides no mercy. Lastly, he goes for the goblin that's holding a torch, aiming to end his life as swiftly as possible. But suddenly, Duncan knocks him out of his bloodthirstiness, allowing Khadim to see that he was actually going to kill Duncan. Khadim stops, his eyes bloodshot, and Duncan asks if he's all right. Khadim apologizes and notes that it was dark, so he couldn't see properly. They should go deeper inside now, as the children are probably there, and also take care of the remaining goblins. With that, they eventually come back to the village, and the villagers hug their daughters and sons, thanking Khadim from the bottom of their hearts. One of the older villagers invites him to some food. He has done so much for them, and it's the least they can do. Khadim denies the offer and tells them to give said food to the children. They must be hungry after crying all night. He tells Duncan to eat with them too, as he will go to rest. Duncan looks on at the villagers, especially at the children, who seem more dead than alive. When they got to them, they were all in one spot, despairing like the world was about to end, having gone completely insane. Khadim explained that they have been brainwashed since their capture, which makes them repeat stuff endlessly until their minds are completely broken. Their parents abandoned them. They are the most useless children, that sort of thing. It's a powerful brainwashing, repeated so many times that even a steadfast holy priest would not be able to withstand it for long. Well, one can't call it full brainwashing. It's a fact that their parents abandoned them after all. It just carved that fact into their minds, so they can never forget it. After being abandoned by the people who gave birth to them, and the people they looked to protect them, these children will never be able to grow up normally. Duncan just couldn't understand why a demon would do such a thing, and Khadim simply stated that it is in their nature. Human suffering and despair are their greatest achievements and nourishment. At that moment, Duncan understood what he said when he stated that this demon was cunning and cruel. Even so, if the parents repent for their sins, and if they take care of the children fully now, could they not recover? Isn't there that saying, utmost sincerity can move heaven? Khadim noted that there was always a possibility, but he doubts that those parents who abandon their children without second thought are capable of such a thing. Knowing all this, Duncan decides to go with Khadim too, not wanting to see the faces of those children any longer. Inside their lodging, he is surprised to see him say that they are leaving already. They should at least rest for today and leave tomorrow, as his injuries have not healed fully yet. Khadim explains that a witness is likely to come forward by now. Killing soldiers and prisoners will be overlooked, like usual, but killing a holy knight is not something they would let slide. Duncan completely forgot that he did that, and Khadim says that if they are unlucky, those bastards are already on their tracks, and they have to hurry, as they are unlikely to let this go. Outside, Khadim punctures the demon's neck and drains his blood in a flask as everyone watches. He gets it to around half full, which should be enough for emergencies. It seems he accomplished his initial goal of visiting this village. The village head asks what he plans to do with the demon corpse, and Khadim tells them to burn it. This surprises the head, as he's sure this thing was difficult to catch, and he thought he did it for money. Since he does not know its worth, he will graciously take it from him and sell it to a holy knight or merchant. Khadim, knowing what he's thinking, explains that if he does not burn it, the smell of blood will start to spread, and when other creatures smell it and devour said corpse, they will become monsters. Certainly he does not wish to be attacked by goblins again, right? Under everyone's scrutiny, the village head decides to burn it right away. Behind Khadim, the same villager who offered him food comes with a few rewards for saving his children. It's not much, but everyone has gathered stuff for him, and they won't take no for an answer. Khadim cannot deny their sincerity, and equips the heavy boots combined with the belt, which will certainly be quite useful. Just as he turns away to leave, the wound from the spear begins to glow and hurt again. This body of his that has such great recovery that the wound he got from yesterday is scabbing over, cannot heal this 10-day-old wound. That blessed weapon of his certainly was no ordinary spear. At the massacre site, Eden informs Helia that he searched every nook and cranny, but he could not find any clues. She finds this pathetic. He should not just stare at the scene carelessly. She wants him to deduce the culprit's intentions. They even slaughtered the prisoners, so their goal wasn't a rescue, and there are no signs of the soldiers' equipment being stolen either. And most importantly, why was the demon corpse mutilated? Just what kind of group did this? Eden asks who it might be. Who might this sacrilegious group be? Helia calls him an imbecile, as she's telling him to find clues based on that deduction. Even though it's been a long time since his investiture, there is a reason why he still hasn't moved beyond the paladin rank, it seems. Eden thinks she's just arrogant. In the end, she doesn't know either. Given who she is, though, he cannot argue. She is the arch-paladin, Helia Muviel, and not just any arch-paladin, but one who ascended to the rank by soloing 20 demons. She is also the Empire's youngest arch-paladin. Her personality is garbage, but her skill cannot be ignored. It is frustrating, but she is not an opponent someone of his rank can take on just yet, although he might get a chance soon. Since it can't be helped, Helia tells him to bring out the holy relic given out by Archbishop Arensko, but this surprised Eden, so they should reconsider using Damien's twin mirrors, as it hasn't been even 10 years since the other one broke. Damien's twin mirror is a pair of mirrors that reflect scenes from the future and past. The one who sees the future is shattered after reflecting on an impossibly powerful being, so now they only have the past one. Helia screams out, asking who said something about breaking it. It was given to them to use when the search hits a dead end. Is he really going to go report at the Archbishop himself that they have no idea who killed his nephew Linton? She calms down and advises him to stop worrying. Unless it reflects a great demon, that mirror won't break. She snatches it from his hand and begins using it on the site, seeing what Khadim did, drinking blood, beating Linton to death, and killing everyone. His extreme gaze causes the mirror to break, shocking both of them. Eden is trembling. How can that mirror break? Did she not say that a great demon had to appear to even begin shattering it? This means that the barbarian they saw is on the level of a great demon. They must return to the holy capital and report this. Helia notes that with the culprit revealed, they have no reason to return to the holy capital, so they should continue their search. Now she's getting serious, vowing to personally kill that demon in human skin. That night, as Duncan gathers water from a nearby river, he thinks of the children, who believe their lives are basically over. They are all madmen. He steels himself. If he wants to survive and return to his family, he has to cheer up. He can't be like this if he wants to serve the barbarian well. He goes back to the campsite and notes that he will prepare his meal now, but upon looking closer at him, he sees Khadim sweating profusely. He's surprised. He's somebody who can tear demons apart with ease. What happened? Khadim gets up, and he sees the wound on his chest, which has reddened and is aching. Khadim thinks he should have realized sooner about that damn blessed weapon. It was probably imbued with a blessing that inflicted fatal wounds on demons, and naturally that wouldn't affect a human, but he's a berserker who gains power from demon blood, and can't be affected since he drinks demon blood. Duncan notes they shouldn't have left the village. He should have rested, at least a little bit. Khadim notes that it's not the kind of wound that can be healed with rest, but more importantly, how was the moon like yesterday? Duncan thinks on it a bit, and notes it was a fully tilted waning crescent moon probably. Khadim is glad he hasn't missed his chance. If it's tonight, then he can do something. Suddenly, though, they heard a bunch of howling from the forest, and sure enough, the blade wolves descend on them, ready for their next meal. Seeing this, Khadim picks up his weapons and tells Duncan to stand back. In this damn world, it seems like he can never truly rest. However, these damn mutts could have visited them another day. The blade wolves circle the weakened Khadim, slowly approaching him until one of them charges in, but Khadim throws his axe at it, making the beast fall back. He was actually aiming for the head, but his vision is extremely blurry, so he cannot even aim properly. Seeing this, the other beasts charge in, Khadim doing his best to take them down, but one of them grabs his swinging arm. Under this pressure, Khadim slams his fist into the beast before taking out the one behind him. Another grabs his ankle, but he deals with it. The other blade wolves begin to circle him, clearly more weary. They are used to hunt in packs, and after seeing their first members go down, they regroup. There are too many of them. If his body were in a better shape, he wouldn't have his issue. Suddenly, he hears Duncan screaming, who is protecting himself with fire. Khadim knows that if he's going to drink demon blood now, it will be like taking poison, but he does not have a choice. Under the guise of the beasts, he takes the demon blood in his mouth and the beasts know he is far more dangerous than before. He suddenly grabs his blade, and with 2 swipes, takes out the ones threatening Duncan. He grabs his axe, and begins to kill wolves left and right. The blood berserker buff effect changes, depending on what type of demon blood he drinks. If he had to guess, this time, it's agility. Sure enough, as 2 beasts charge him, he dashes through with amazing speed, taking them out. He expected this effect, considering that demon bastard was just as fast. Suddenly, the Bladwolves retreat, Duncan thinking they are running away. But Khadim knows that's not the case. It seems that the Alpha has arrived. Duncan is shocked to see a wolf twice as big as the others, but Khadim is more scared about the buff, as it's about to run out. Suddenly, the beast attacks with no warning, Khadim realizing that it's trying to crush him with only its weight. Suddenly, the side effects of the injury get to him, and he falls on one knee. Duncan asks if he's alright and tells him to snap out of it quickly, as the wolf is still approaching. Khadim looks up at the sky, as the conditions should have been met. Sure enough, he sees it. Midnight on the night when the moon has completely hidden itself. It's here. He hilts his blade in the ground and begins praying. Atala, undefeated master of soldiers, place his blade in his hands. Bless this great warrior who only thirsts for battle. On the night the eye that watches over the land hides itself, bestow the blood-soaked name upon this very blade. Suddenly, the blade begins to glow, shocking both the Alpha and Duncan, and Khadim is asked what name he would like to give this blade. It's been a while since he's done this reverberation of will. He felt it in his first playthrough too. The name he grants the blade is Mosquito, and with that, a rune is grafted on it, fiery and red. This is his unique trait at work, the one who bestows names. The Alpha attacks again, but Khadim easily swipes an attack on the beast, causing it to land. The special effect of the blades activates, which is vampirism. This causes him to restore a small amount of health and heal some wounds. The Alpha growls at him, and Khadim is not satisfied either. He wants to see what this beast can do. Eventually, though, he takes the Alpha out, and due to all the attacks he got on it, all of his wounds heal. Khadim is pleased to see that even his fatal wound from the blessed weapon did. If anything, it was rather helpful that these things showed up. What's written on the blade is ancient script, so he can't read it, but it probably means mosquito, and vampirism is a special effect that restores life force upon attack. Unfortunately, the weapon is low grade, and the efficiency isn't great. To fully recover from being a wreck, he'd have to slaughter dozens of beasts, and even then, if he encounters an enemy that is not flesh, it's useless. This is enough for now, as being able to grant a special effect without any material is an advantage. Duncan peeks over the tree he was hiding and approaches, surprised to see the situation unfolding like this, as this barbarian was a complete wreck. How did he not collapse? He looks at him, and sees that not only are his battle wounds gone, but also the one that the Holy Knight gave him. Khadim asks why he didn't run away when he fought the wolf back. If he had abandoned him in his weakened state and fled, he couldn't have chased him. Duncan thinks about it, and only now has the idea surfaced. Khadim smiles. Even if he had run, he would have been chased down by the hungry wolves, although it seems he hasn't given up on the thought of running away just yet. Duncan wonders why he didn't think of running away. He was so worried about this injured barbarian that he didn't have time to think about anything else. Khadim tells him to keep watch, as he is exhausted from the battle. If he runs away though, he should run to the ends of the earth, because if he catches him, he will drag him back by his broken neck. Duncan wonders if he's joking, but doesn't want to find out, and keeps watch the entire night. The next day, he explains that they have to walk for about 10 more days to get to the Alliance Tertiary. The southern region of the Empire is vast, so it takes longer to reach the border. Khadim asks if they will be able to cross the border without issue, as he doesn't want to run in another Holy Night. Duncan thinks it's not a problem. That is why they came to the poorly guarded area. They might run into bandits, but that shouldn't be a problem for him. There is a small castle called Multana where they will restock. It's a remote place that the El Gafati can't influence. The Free City territory is smaller than the Empire's, and has a more developed commercial sector, so the road is well maintained. If they follow shortcuts, they can get there in no time. Khadim thinks that it still won't be an easy journey despite the roads, but it's much better than the old days. 300 years ago, the Eastern continent was an arena where countless kingdoms were vying for power. People became exclusive, and nobody welcomed outsiders, especially a massive barbarian who could cause a ruckus. Melissa even looked at him strangely when they met, and he couldn't blame her. To a young mage who spent her entire life as a scholar, a barbarian suddenly asked to travel with her. She immediately wrote about him in that diary of hers, writing all kinds of needless stuff. He smiles as he remembers it, although now, this is just a useless memory. Duncan notes that the Free Cities Alliance should be fine with someone like him, so he shouldn't worry. But suddenly they hear a commotion in front of them. Khadim asks what he would be, and Duncan guesses that they are bandits. The people scolding them are a different group, but he's not sure. Khadim thinks they should take another path to not getting involved, but the scolded bandit sees him, and as they approach, Khadim gets prepared to battle. The bandit, however, presents Khadim as if they already know him, and notes that they knew he would come. As he told them, the other bandits run away, clearly not wanting to die, and the bullied bandits laugh, as they find the sight of those guys running away very funny. They should tell everyone that Agon's raging horn is here. Khadim asks one more time what they are doing, and the bandit apologizes, thanking him for his help, although he probably wants to be called Agon's raging horn, right? Khadim notes he's not that guy, and has no intention of helping them, so they should get out of his way, or die. The bandits are confused, but since he is not the one they were thinking of, he was certainly trying to confuse them and get away with something. He must be punished for his insolence. Seeing the bandit change his attitude so quickly, it's clear to Khadim that he was waiting for someone else. Since they have the numbers, they probably think they have the upper hand too. One of them notices Duncan and asks what that porter of his is carrying in that comically oversized bag. Something expensive, maybe? When he goes to take a peek, Khadim stops him, confusing the bandit. He's making him quite sad by acting like this, popping out of nowhere and confusing their people like that. Because of him, they have to fight those bastards now without reinforcement, so he ought to offer some financial compensation at least. Khadim just stares him down, and the bandit guesses he doesn't want his pockets touched. If not, they will do it like this. Since it seems he can handle himself, he should come with them to fight those bastards, while pretending he is Agon's raging horn. He saw those bastards run away earlier, so it really won't be hard at all. He pretends to be him, noting that he just has to shout and they will flee again. With that, they can call it even without taking his bag as payment. It's only natural, since he is at fault here. If a man has manhood, they ought to take responsibility. Perhaps he is a woman under all that, so he doesn't really know how to make him repay. It's his first time seeing a barbarian, so he doesn't know how to discern between the two. As his friends laugh, Duncan thinks that Khadim keeping quiet is very bad. Perhaps he's holding back to not get tangled up with bandits though. The bandit thinks it's decided though, since they will be working together. How about they introduce themselves? He's first. Khadim will gladly do that, and with a swift swing of his blade, he decapitates the bastard in front of him. As it rolls on the ground, his friends take a while to realize what happened, and as they scream, Duncan sighs, fully expecting this. The bandits immediately pull out their knives and blades, noting that he will not get out of here alive. Khadim fully introduces himself. He's also the great warrior of Atala. After a very short amount of time, Khadim is done with the measly bandits, taking his axe out of the last one, but he sees that it's well past its glory days at this point. The edges are chipped, and the joint is rattling, marking its loss. It wasn't meant for combat, however, and he's been through the ringer with it. He sets it on his belt, thinking that he will look for a more decent one at the castle. It seems that one of the bandits still lives. He is frozen with shock until Khadim turns to him. He immediately sprints away, but he immediately trips and falls. Khadim thinks this is good. He no longer has to worry about losing a leg, and he doesn't have to pull his axe out. If he doesn't want his spine crushed, he'd better answer his questions truthfully though. Are they bandits? What's their relationship with the ones that escaped? And most importantly, who's Agon's raging horn? Seeing him not answer, Duncan intervenes, noting that Agon is a city in the center of the Free City Alliance. It has the largest arena on the continent, and countless mercenaries, gladiators, and wanderers gather there, seeking wealth and honor. Agon's raging horn is a legendary barbarian merc who has won the championship on multiple occasions. Khadim asks if these guys mistook him for that, which Duncan guesses, but he finds it strange. He is such a famous figure that even a chairman could not meet him easily. Maybe if they paid him a fortune, but not even then. The bandit screams out, noting that their boss is from the arena, and he said they've been best friends since back then. He said if they asked for help, he would drop everything and come, no matter what. When Agon's raging horn is here, they will all die. He damns it all. This is all because of those Black Hammer Gang bastards. The area used to be their territory, the Blood Cave Gang territory. One day, though, they pushed in using their sheer numbers, which is why their boss asked his best friend for help. Duncan notes that truthfully, they've been completely scammed. If they were truly best pals, would he just watch him act as a bandit in a place like this? He could have just tossed him some gold bars to open a decent shop in a big city. The bandit begins to realize this too, and Khadim thinks that, regardless of circumstance, he has killed several members, so they won't let it slide. It is better to strike first than be ambushed. Since they are bandits, he will loot their supplies without any guilt, and perhaps he can procure a more decent weapon too. He tells the bandit to lead him to his group so he can clear them out, and he refuses at first, But when Khadim presses on his spine, he folds. At the hideout of their gang, their leader sits atop a golden throne. He is Graham, the leader of this ragtag group, and a close friend of his brother, the Agon's Raging Horn. He made a name for himself in the arena of Agon, and he's a proud and brave warrior. That's what he would like to be. But Raging Horn doesn't even know of his existence. The truth is, he was a basic gladiator with 1 win and 4 losses. He lied about sending a messenger because his subordinates kept acting out. But even if he had sent one, Raging Horn wouldn't have come anyway. He wonders where it all went wrong. He just wanted a simple life. With those loyal subordinates he gathered by lying, or at least, exaggerated bluffs. Scraping by on banditry in this area, that would have been enough for him. This is all because of those Black Hammer bastards. They had their border. Why did they need to creep down here? As he despairs, a subordinate screams out, rushing to him, as the Raging Horn is here. Before he can ask to be saved, the subordinate is taken out by Khadim with a precise axe throw. Graham can't believe it. The distinctive barbarian attire, that amazing physique. Is this really Agon's Raging Horn? Khadim points his blade at him and asks if he is the boss of this ragtag bandit group. Graham acts confused, acting like he doesn't know who that person is. Graham has seen the face of Agon's Raging Horn in the past, and this is not him. Not at all. Where did this barbarian come from to attack their gang? If he made it so far inside, his subordinates must already have been dealt with. Even if he is not Agon's Raging Horn, he is undoubtedly just as dangerous as he, perhaps even more. He smashes his fist on the table and rushes in, thinking that he should get the first strike. Khadim finds it interesting that he is planning to fight with only his bare hands. He must be confident. Suddenly though, Graham falls on his knees and begs him to spare his life, calling him Big Brother. There is money and valuables stored in that chest in the corner, so he should accept those for now, as he will give him more. Khadim tells him to stop calling him Big Brother, and Graham now calls him Mr. Mercenary. If he wants equipment or food, he can go to the deepest part of the cave to get it. Duncan thinks that this is really the posture of someone begging for their life. Graham asks if there is anything else he wants, and then, seeing him raise his blade, he asks why he is doing it, and why it keeps going higher. He begs Khadim to reconsider, and then mentions tribute. How about he will pay him a tribute every time he visits? He knows it's no use though. This bastard won't listen to anything he has to say. He's someone who survived the brutal arena using every trick he knew, and yet he's going to meet his end like this. Suddenly, he sees his battered, used axe and mentions the treasure map. How about he gives him one? One that marks the location of a dwarven throwing axe. Khadim stops, as this is interesting to him. What does he know about that? Graham confirms that it does indeed exist. It's a throwing axe said to be made with the heart and soul of dwarven artisans. Khadim tells him to keep talking. Graham thinks that he caught his interest. It's only natural though. Dwarven equipment is not something easily found even on the black market. He heard the blade never dulls, no matter how many times it's used. And when thrown, it flies like a bird to hit its target without aiming, and it is just incredible. He's sure it would be of use. Khadim already knows that dwarven equipment not only has incredible stats, but it is also plastered with special effects. It's impossible to even compare them with ordinary human-made equipment. It would have had to be at least blessed to compare. Therefore, obtaining dwarven equipment is no easy task. As is common in fantasy games, different races like dwarves and elves exist in this game. However, they were minor races and did not have a high presence. Because of this, even dwarven equipment that could be obtained through quests in the game was not something one could easily get in this world, which has become reality. Since there was no way the dwarves, who dislike humans for one reason or another, would willingly sell their equipment. If what this bastard is saying is true, this is an opportunity he cannot miss. High-performance weapons are necessary, if only to avoid relying too much on the demon blood and suffering the same consequences as in the past. He asks where the map is, but Graham doesn't want to say. First, he wants to have his life guaranteed, as this is not a lifeline he cannot let go. It's the only one he has. Khadim smiles. Does he really think he will negotiate with a mere bandit? He drives his blade in Graham's shoulder and notes that in negotiation, he has a few tricks he can use too. He will keep driving holes into him until he feels like talking, so he should try holding out as long as possible. Graham has finally realized just how screwed he is. At the Black Hammer Gang hideout, one of the members who saw Khadim has come to tell them what happened, but one of them doesn't believe him. This all seems like nonsense to him. The boss smashes his mighty hammer on the ground, making them stop this squabble. Is he really saying that Agon's Raging Horn has come to the frontier? To help the Blood Cave Gang no less? This is the Black Hammer Gang boss, Kravan. They both now confirm as such, but Kravan asks if that makes any lick of sense. They both beg to be believed, as they really saw a barbarian, as large as a bear, and he helped them. Kravan knows that these dimwits wouldn't react like this if something didn't happen. They must have seen something. There were rumors that Graham and Agon's Raging Horn were close friends, but that has to be nonsense. Does it really make sense that a legendary arena champion would move just to help a third-rate bandit? Once one crosses into the Alliance territory, having a barbarian mercenary is not a difficult thing to obtain. He probably hired one just to bluff. However, just in case it really is Agon's Raging Horn, he should act while he can. Suddenly, one of the men rushes inside, noting that there's a raid. The Blood Cave gang is approaching them. Kravan asks how many, and the bandit notes that there are only 2 people. One is the leader, and the other is what looks to be Agon's Raging Horn, a massive barbarian. The 2 bandits who reported knew he would come, and Kravan still doesn't fully believe it. But if that really is the case, they do not stand a chance in a head-on fight. He tells his men to deploy crossbows behind the barricade, while the rest hide in the bushes. On his signal, they will all fire arrows. Alas, they should go and verify if this really is the Agon's Raging Horn they speak of. As Graham forcefully escorts Khadim, he notes that they are almost there, but wonders if he really intends to go inside, into the Black Hammer hideout. Khadim notes that it was he who said the map is inside their territory. Or perhaps he lied. Graham wouldn't dare. They originally hid it in their territory, but since they lost it to these bastards, things just happened like this. The thing is, they are up against a huge bandit gang, so walking openly is quite dangerous. Khadim asks how many there are, and Graham immediately begins lying, noting that there are 50, no, at least 100, and each is as cruel and vicious as the next. If he says 100, surely he will give up, he thinks. And Khadim does note that this is a big number for a frontier gang, so he will be a bit tired after killing them all, so they should hurry, as he wants to be back before sunset. Unfortunately for him, Graham's plan did not work at all, and soon they met face to face with Kravan, who looked sternly at Khadim before asking Graham what business he had here. Graham notes that's a foolish question. Isn't it obvious that he has come here today to declare the downfall of the Black Hammer gang, with his close friend, the great champion of the arena, the revered Agon's Raging Horn? Everyone gets serious, wondering if this is really who they say he is, and Graham thinks that with this, they will be shaken up, and with the focus on the barbarian, he will run away while they fight. Suddenly, Khadim asks what he is doing by almost pulling his scalp off, and notes that he is not Agon, whatever his name is. He has no intention of fighting as long as they get the item that he is looking for. There is no reason for them to shed blood here, no? Kravan smiles deeply, as he knew that this bastard wasn't Agon's Raging Horn. He must be hired by Graham. He probably betrayed him after realizing he was dragged into this death trap. But why is he so calm when he is not Agon himself? Does he not understand the situation he is in yet? He smashes his hammer on the ground, and the crossbowmen appear, along with everyone else from the bushes, circling the 2 like prey. Kravan notes that he should cooperate. Then what item is he seeking? His subordinates will help him, so he should speak freely. Khadim explains that he's looking for a map. This guy knows the location, so he doesn't need their help. They just need to peacefully clear the way. Kravan is intrigued. Perhaps he is talking about this old thing. Graham exclaims that this is it, but how does he have it? Kravan didn't expect him to hide it. One of his subordinates found it under a rock and brought it to him. Several groups have come looking for it, so the thing that it's marking must be quite precious. Well, he doesn't plan to use it, and if he can't have it, nobody can. Graham asks if he really is crazy, as he sees him rip it apart, and then eat it. Kravan tells him to take it now. If he can, that is. Khadim doesn't mind. If that's what he really wants, then that's what he will get. He will have to hurry, though, if he wants to get it out before it passes through his stomach. Kravan immediately orders his men to fire, but Khadim swiftly grabs Graham and uses him as a shield, blocking all of the arrows that come his way. Kravan can't believe it. He just stares as Graham screams out in pain. This guy is a lunatic, even if he betrayed his employer, to use him as a meat shield without any hesitation. Kravan orders his men to aim for the parts that are sticking out. He can't cover everything, and fire again in unison as soon as they finish reloading. The bandits all reload as fast as possible, but suddenly, Khadim's axe flies into one of their heads. The crossbowmen, seeing this, fire again, continuing to pin their bolts into Graham, who begs to be killed instead of suffering this fate. Kravan asks his men what they are doing. He told them to shoot all at once, not separately, but they should stop firing for now. He turns to his men on the ground and tells them to charge. They do just that, and Khadim throws Graham into some of them. There are certainly quite a lot of them. Mosquito might heal his injuries, but dealing with this many numbers, he could sustain some unwanted injuries, so he will end it as quickly and as decisively as he can. Kravan wonders what he just drank. Was that alcohol or water to quench his thirst? Khadim feels an intense sense of elation, incomparable to when he drank it while his body was a mess. He is stronger, focused, and ready. Suddenly, he rises in the air as the bandits berate him and slices some of them up before they even notice. Using the demon blood, he is faster than they can perceive, especially since he has the agility enhancement. The bandits cover their backs, wondering how the hell he is so fast, but Khadim still cuts through them. Seeing all of this bloodshed, Kravan wonders what is happening. There is no way a barbarian received Elga's divine power. Just where did such a beast even come from? He gulps audibly and tells the crossbowmen to load a crossbow and bring it to him now. They do so, and Kravan thinks that no matter how fast his feet may be, there is always a moment when he stops moving and reveals his presence. As the number of his men dwindles and the distance widens, it becomes more frequent. After attacking, he reveals himself, stopping his feet, and then shows his back to find the next target. Like now, he fires off the bolt, which flies toward Khadim at an amazing speed, right into his face. Kravan thinks that he got him, and smiles widely. Khadim is faster than he expected, however, and just as the bolt tip reaches him, he grabs it and snaps it in two. Kravan can't believe it. How did he catch a bolt flying toward him? What kind of power-up nonsense is that? Seeing that they dare to interrupt him, Khadim begins to slowly approach, with one of the bandits noticing as such, but Kravan tells him to stop standing there and reload his crossbow too. The few bandits that are on the ground try to stop him, but he just goes through them without a scratch on him. Seeing him not stopping at all, Kravan wonders if he changed priorities because he saw the crossbows as annoying, and he asks his subordinate how many loaded crossbows they have. He explains that they have 3, including the one he has in his hands, and Kravan tells him to listen very carefully. He stuffs a bolt in his pants and grabs his mighty hammer, preparing to face Khadim, who is slicing through his men as he looks at him. Kravan thinks that since he cleared out the men who were blocking the front, he will close the distance soon. Even if he swings his hammer, he will not be able to touch him, but he has a plan. As he finally arrives, Kravan swings his hammer at him, but then feints and smashes into the ground, blocking Khadim's vision momentarily. Kravan tells his men to fire, and they do it, but Khadim has seen through their tricks already. Kravan grabs the crossbow that is on the ground and pulls the bolt out of his pants. Khadim grabs one of the bolts, but that's when Kravan goes under him and lets the bolt loose right in his face. Kravan knows that even he cannot react in time for something like that, but unfortunately, Khadim has. He rushes through and cuts Kravan's legs, leaving him to kneel like a dog. Kravan doesn't get it. He definitely hit him directly. So how? What happened? Khadim snaps the bolt and spits it out as he caught it with his teeth. He will go deal with his little crossbowmen and come back, so he should wait quietly for his sentence. Kravan can only listen as he hears his men scream and shout, begging to be spared, but there is no sparing against Khadim's might. After he is done, Kravan knows this is a bit late to bring up, but could he spare his life? Khadim did not have any intention of killing him anyway. He's just going to slice open his stomach and get the map. Kravan exclaims there is no reason to do that, because he has the contents of the map memorized. If he enters the deep hole under the fist-shaped rock in the exact center of the molded castle, he will find a black chest inside. Khadim asks why he didn't get the treasure for himself if he knew where it was. Was he afraid of the Lord's punishment? Kravan denies that idea. Normally, sending in a few subordinates would have been enough, but Molden is currently surrounded by soldiers, which is why they moved from the border to here. Khadim really isn't interested in their circumstances, but what troops are besieging Molden and why? Kravan thinks it's the Viscount's Adlin's army. The official reason is to execute the Lord of Molden, the Demon Baron, who signed a contract with a demon. But there is a rumor that there are other circumstances behind the scenes. Because if there was real proof that the Lord shook hands with a demon, the Holy Knights of Elga would have stepped in too. Khadim thought he only needed the map, but it feels like things are getting more and more complicated the more he looks into it. Khadim is glad he told him, but he will still have to take out the map to verify if what he said is true. Kravan asks why he is doing this. Did he not tell him about the contents and more? Khadim does not believe the word of a bandit, and he said so earlier too, to take it if he can. That night, as they make camp, Khadim gives Duncan the bloody and torn map and tells him to piece it together. Duncan asks where the map was for it to be in such a poor shape, and Khadim tells him it was in his stomach. The bandit tore it up and swallowed it, so he retrieved it directly from his stomach. Duncan gets it and does his best, making the map match roughly what the bandit told him. It wasn't a lie then, but the story about Maudlin Castle is true too if that is the case. Khadim wonders if that Demon Baron's story really is true, and how he can use it. At the village they visited earlier, the village chief is exclaiming that he is only speaking the truth. There truly has not been anyone passing through the village as of late, other than a few villagers getting hurt working. There have not been incidents. They are saying the truth. They do not know this holy knight, but they know she means business, and she asks if they can swear this before Elga. The villagers do as such, but Helia looks specifically at the quivering woman next to the village chief and asks if she can really swear it. Before leaving, Khadim told them that if anyone came to the village asking about him, they should never answer, nor mention the demon that was causing them trouble. If they ignore his warning and dare to speak of him, one day he will return and slaughter every last one of them, leaving no survivors. Fearing this, the woman does swear so. Helia finds it strange. There are definitely traces of the target heading this way. Are they really saying nobody passed through here in the last few days? The woman confirms as such. She swears on Elga that no mercenary of any kind passed through this village. That's where Helia caught her though, as she never said the target was a mercenary, did she? The woman covers her mouth in fear, sweating bullets, and Helia begins to slowly draw her blade. Before anything can happen though, they hear a bunch of screaming coming from one of the houses, and Helia demands to know what that sound is. The woman tells her it's nothing. She shouldn't pay it any kind of mind, really. Helia is even more suspicious now, and does not listen to them. She immediately goes into that house and finds someone on the floor convulsing, their eyes reddened. Judging by this, they are possessed by a demon, and quite severely. The woman excuses it as a chronic illness. He's been like this sometimes since he was young after all. As Helia begins to walk toward the boy, the woman grabs her leg, telling her she can't just do this once. She should let it go. Helia doesn't even listen to her, and begins casting her magic, making a beam of holy light appear in her hand, which she smashes in the face of the boy, consecrating him fully. The light permeates throughout the entire room, giving it a warm and holy feeling that everyone can feel. With this, the convulsion stops, and Helia explains that the child has been saved from the inner demon planted by that devil. From now on until forever, his soul shall never again suffer from the devil's whispers. She can promise that. The woman has calmed herself now, and thanks Helia from the bottom of her heart. But suddenly a wave of fiery stillness goes through her boy, and Helia cuts off his neck entirely. A lamb once stained by such evil cannot be left alive. He was forsaken by the light, so he must offer his life as a sacrifice to wash away that sin. The woman doesn't understand why his head is there. Surely he was in her arms just a moment before. She begins to scream out, realizing what had happened, and Helia tells her not to worry. She took his life after destroying the inner demon inside, so the child now enjoys eternal rest by Elga's side. But the unbeliever who defied an oath sworn on Elga's name will not. If she does not wish to wander in endless darkness for eons, she should confess the truth immediately. That evil spirit, that barbarian she's been hunting, where did he go? That same night, Duncan checks their supplies, noting that, thanks to him destroying 2 bandit gangs, they secured more than enough food and supplies for now. So much that they even had to leave most of it behind because they could not carry it all. However, he could not find any quality weapons he was hoping for. They were bandits after all. Khadim asks if he knows anything about the Lord of Molden, and Duncan has heard of the demon Barang in passing. The nickname probably didn't stick because of harsh rules or a contract with the demon. He once had a drink with a merchant from Molden, and he missed his hometown, saying it was a very nice place to live. If the Lord were an evil and greedy man, he wouldn't be saying such things, would he? Khadim thinks that proves nothing about his lack of connection with demons. There are plenty of those things out there that grant abundance only to snatch it away in an instant, sending one to hell to enjoy their stacked pain and suffering. The only way to get a dwarven weapon is to check it out himself. Then the problem is that he barely has a sip of blood left, and a single sword. He wonders if he can break through the hundreds of soldiers surrounding Molden Castle just with these. Will he have to use his fists? As he thinks, Duncan excuses himself for asking, but he really wants to know one thing. When they first saw the bandits, didn't he call himself the Great Warrior of Atala? People receive that title. Is it something that only special warriors among those who serve Atala can receive? Khadim asks why he asked, and Duncan explains that, from what he heard, he knows that Aegon's Raging Horn also goes around calling himself a Great Warrior of Atala. Aside from that legendary mercenary, he did not know there was anyone else who called themselves that. Khadim immediately gets mad, and gets up with a very serious look on his face. Seeing this, Duncan immediately goes to his knees and apologizes, having committed the deadly sin of asking too many useless questions. Khadim doesn't even look at him, and thinks the Great Warrior of Atala isn't just a nickname given to a warrior for fighting well. Only one person among the Atalans can be named as such. It is a sacred title given only to a warrior who bears the mission to slaughter great demons on behalf of the god of the wilderness. Therefore, there can never be 2 great warriors of Atala. Only the one who holds his title can obtain the power to end the life of a great demon. This means that there are 2 possibilities. Aegon's Raging Horn is using that title without knowing any better, or Atala has forgotten him and chosen another great warrior. Khadim tells Duncan to get up, as it's not his fault. They leave for Molden at daybreak, so he should get plenty of rest. As he walks away, Khadim thinks that whether he is impersonating the great warrior, or he has been abandoned by Atala, whichever it is, he will tear him apart when they first meet, no matter what. When they get to Molden Castle, they see that the atmosphere is not really that great. Guards are standing by, but they are standing by for nothing, as they are just watching the encampments that surround them, looking extremely famished as well. Khadim and Duncan watch from a few nearby bushes, with Duncan surprised to see hundreds of soldiers surrounding Molden Castle in a standoff. Besides that, no matter how much he may look around, he does not see any gap to enter the castle. Khadim tells Duncan to go look for a safe space nearby and hide in it, as he will go there by himself. Duncan asks if he's really intending to break through hundreds of soldiers all alone, but Khadim wasn't thinking of doing that. If he uses the cover of the night to cross the camp and just deal with the sentries, he should be able to get inside rather easily. Suddenly, though, the castle gate begins to slowly creak open, confusing them and making Duncan wonder if the Baron of Molden intends to wage an all-out war. Khadim cannot know the reason, but this is definitely an opportunity. There's no time to think, and no time to hesitate either. He tells Duncan to hold on tight, and, after drinking the last of the demon blood, suddenly grabs him and charges in, as they are going to break through in one go. As the hundreds of men wait for the gates to open, they suddenly feel a gust of wind coming over them, and Khadim begins to kill them off one by one, simply ripping off their heads with his brute strength, before unleashing a devastating wild slash that kills tens in it. However, these guys don't seem to be reacting that much. Their comrades are dying right in front of their eyes, but they are not agitated in the slightest. Khadim doesn't know why, but he doesn't have the leisure to be curious either. He must break through while the gate is open. He continues killing one man after another before ending up on an older one, presumably the leader, and smashing his head into the ground, crushing it completely. It seems that he successfully made it through, but someone else stands in front of the gates of Molden, who introduces himself as Baron Molden, the lord of this place. Who is he? Khadim understands. He is the demon baron then. But why is he here alone outside of the castle? The baron explains that it's regrettable. The rumor that he is related to a demon is just not true. There are circumstances there. Khadim walks past him and notes that he will know if it's a rumor or not when he checks. He should follow him, as he has some questions for him. The baron refuses. He came here to sacrifice his life for Molden. He had already made peace with his death. Khadim tells him he can die later, as now he has questions for him. The baron wonders where it all went so wrong. He remembers that one night he came to the guards carrying some water for their hard work. The guards were really touched, as they never thought he would do something like this personally. He could have just ordered them to do it. The baron laughed at the man who said this, a Deltan, and said he was a proper soldier now. His parents would have been very proud to see him. He looked on at the men surrounding them, noting that carrying a water skin up here is hard work. The soldiers should be resting too now, since it's much harder work to stay on high alert all day, facing an enemy they do not know when they will attack. Because of an incompetent and unvirtuous lord like him, they endure suffering. Deltan tells him to not say that the demon baron, or whatever those wicked swindlers of Adlan are at fault here. He has done nothing wrong. They are just very honored to follow him. The baron sighed and thanked him for saying that, but he shouldn't make young men like him suffer anymore. He then went to his wife, noting that the weather is getting warmer. Fortunately, they don't have to worry about a shortage of firewood anymore. She said nothing for a while, and knew that he did not come here to talk about the weather. What did he wish to really speak about? The baron asked if she remembered the tulips he bought and planted last year. Didn't she ask a traveling merchant from the Alliance territory to order bulbs by color? Why couldn't he think of that while looking at the desolate surroundings of the castle? Her aesthetic sense really must be acknowledged. It would have been very beautiful if those tulips had bloomed. His wife sighed, noting that the inside of the castle is suffering from famine. What do tulips matter now? The baron explained that on his way back he saw children of the castle digging up the soil and eating those bulbs. They were terrified when they saw him, but they still stuffed their bulbs in their mouths with reckless abandon. His wife asked if he scolded them, but scolding them for something like that when it's all his fault that his territory and his people are suffering would be unwise. They have been besieged for 4 months, unable to do anything, and the winter provisions ran out long ago. The people here are holding weapons instead of farming tools. If they continue to hold out like this, then this castle, which will surely perish with everyone in it. Therefore, he will end everything today, and die honorably. If he dies, this Viscount Adlan will no longer have a justification to besiege this place, and they will all be free. His wife got up suddenly, telling him that's not the reason they are doing this. He is not related to a demon at all, isn't he? The baron told her that the truth is not important now. This is just profit and justification. If their goal was the truth, wouldn't they have called for the Order of Holy Knights so long ago? If this Viscount Adlin does not withdraw even after he dies, she should send a messenger to His Majesty the Emperor and spread rumors about them. If His Majesty still overlooks this atrocity, she should just defect to the Alliance side and receive help. From this day forth, the future of Molden is in her hands. It will be difficult, but he hopes she can lead the territory wisely, as she has led him throughout the years. This dragging battle they have been going at for 4 months will end today with the death of the Demon Baron. The Baron intended to die today, to sacrifice his life for his people, but who on earth is this barbarian? And why is he exuding such an aura? The guards are naturally worried for the Baron, and are glad to see him back. But suddenly, one of them notices that the elder soldiers are doing something. They are convulsing, making sounds, and suddenly screaming, their eyes bloodshot with power and rage. Khadim has seen this before. This is the work of a demon. The Baron immediately tells his soldiers to close the castle gates. They begin doing so, but the possessed soldiers do not stop their charge. It's a very reckless charge. He grabs the spear of one of the soldiers and tells them to bring him more. With that, he grips the spear tightly, using all of his muscles to smash it into the group of soldiers, eradicating a few of them with one strike. They are all shocked, but Khadim does not have time for their shock and demands the next spear. He's handed spear after spear after spear, each going into the beasts, into the mindless beasts that were once humans, making them go even crazier and faster, not wanting to stop at all. The gate keeps closing, but suddenly it stops. The winch apparently will not turn anymore. It must be jammed somewhere, and it won't budge no matter what they do. The Baron thinks that this is a worst-case scenario, and Khadim is annoyed by their inability to close the gate. The Baron tells one of the soldiers to gather everyone in front of the gate and find the engineer, while also taking the strong soldiers and heading to the winch to unblock it. Before that, Khadim grabs the gate, using his mighty strength, begins pulling it down, little by little. Everyone is shocked as the frenzied men are still coming in, but the Baron tells his soldiers to cover him. They should slow down the enemy advance, even if just a little. Spears, stones, whatever they have, they should throw everything at them. The soldiers do, making the advance stop only for a short while, giving Khadim enough time to fully close the gate right before the mindless soldiers charge in on it. Khadim says nothing, turns around, and knows that this should do it. Right now they can close the main gate and forget about those guys for a while. Everyone is shocked, including the Baron. Is this guy even a human? Khadim doesn't care about their words though. He just wants to have a nice, calm talk with the Baron. Naturally, Khadim is invited inside and is given a bunch of food. The Baron explains that he can't even remember the last time he entertained some guests. There is not much prepared, but they should eat their fill while they can. Khadim doesn't eat, but Duncan does. He even asks for seconds. Khadim then mentions that food shouldn't be this plentiful. The Baron tells him not to worry about it. His family and he both can starve for a few meals, even if he had to carve the flesh from his own thigh to serve them. He could not commit the dishonor of letting his honored guests go hungry. Khadim thinks about honor. Is that why he also tried to go and die? The Baron looks at his hands and explains that, to some extent, it was that. Khadim would like to hear the full story. What exactly has been happening all this time? And why did he try to go alone in the enemy camp to throw his life away? The Baron notes that he owes him that much at least, but before that he must go back a bit in time. This place was originally a barren land with poor security, so not many people lived here. In his youth, he received the Emperor's command and became the Lord of Molden. He was determined to make this a good place to live, no matter what it took. Over a dozen years he poured his heart and soul into this, making it quite a prosperous and peaceful place. Thanks to its remote location, there was little chance of getting swept up in conflict, and he did not doubt that Molden's prosperity and peace would last forever. However, one man's greed and jealousy changed everything. Viscount Adlin rules a neighboring territory. It had somewhat better conditions than Molden, but as Molden gradually developed more and more, and became a better place to live, the Viscount grew jealous and weary, and began spreading false rumors that Baron Molden is a demon baron, who signed a contract with a demon for this prosperity. He claimed that the work of his people, his work, was all done with the help of a demon. Of course, naturally, this rumor had little effect, as why would anyone listen to baseless rumors from the frontier without any evidence? However, the situation changed not long ago. The fourth prince, who was stirring the border region, fell for the Viscount's second daughter. Having a connection to the imperial family, however small it was, instantly made the Viscount the more influential lord in this area. His words were no longer treated as mere nonsense, and with the Emperor's approval, the subjugation of the demon baron finally began 4 months ago. Using that false justification as an excuse, They've been surrounded by 400 soldiers like this. He could no longer watch the people of Molden suffer, so he intended to sacrifice his life and just end it all. Khadim finds it strange. A siege for 4 months? In 4 months, the situation in Molden has deteriorated to the point where the Lord has to starve. How can they feed on it? A deployment force of 400 for 4 months without any gains. The Baron wondered this too. Perhaps the Imperial Army has been secretly helping them. Now he has told them everything about the situation, so he wants to know about theirs. Who are they? And what reason could be compelling enough for them to break through Adlan's camp and get here? Khadim explains that he came here because there is something he is looking for in Molden. Is there, by any chance, a fist-shaped rock in the exact center of the castle? The Baron is confused as to how he knows about that. There is indeed such a rock in the castle's basement. Khadim gets up and asks him to take him there. He will leave quietly once his business is done, as he has no other purpose here. The Baron refuses. That's impossible. Entry to the basement is forbidden. Khadim asks for the reason, but the Baron refuses to tell that to an outsider, which is unfortunate, as he must follow his family's rules. Khadim is getting increasingly annoyed, and Duncan feels the atmosphere shift to think that a Baron who has been so friendly up until now would be so firm. The two men stare each other down, both not willing to let up. Khadim sighs, thinking that he figured things were not going to go so smoothly, and suddenly grabs a kitchen knife and rushes it over the Baron, specifically towards a bug on the table, which he crushes with it. He notes that there are about 100 soldiers in the castle, give or take, right? By tomorrow they will all end up like this bug. They can't run away either, since the outside is surrounded by the enemy. They might live a little longer if they hide well, but that will not last either. They will be crushed like insignificant bugs, not even knowing why they are dying, and they will lose all of their lives in vain. He will not need to explain why he is blocking access, but he will give him a choice, and he will do it. He will choose now. Will he quietly guide him to the basement, or will he do it after he paints the entire castle in innocent blood? The Baron thinks on it, thinking that, from someone like him, this is not an empty threat at all. It was his mistake after all. He shouldn't have carelessly let in an outsider with unknown intentions. He lets out a long sigh, and notes that he understands. He will be guiding him to the basement shortly, but not right now. He has one condition. Basically, he wants him to help defend the castle if Adlan attacks after he surrenders and dies. The Baron confirms as such. Having lost his justification, Viscount Adlan might launch an all-out attack in sheer desperation. He will instruct his steward to guide him to the basement once he repels the attack. Khadim thinks a bit on it, and calls his plan ridiculous. Does he really think that's an honorable death? Facing an enemy he can't possibly handle, leaving the aftermath to a complete stranger he just met, and abandoning everything and dying as if to just run away. Is he saying that he considers that an honorable death? Khadim continues. Sacrificing oneself for others might seem like an honorable and dutiful act at first glance, but what he is trying to do is dump the burden on others and throw his life away in vain. It is no different than taking the coward's way out. However, the Atalan way is different. Even if their limbs are twisted, their ribs crushed, and their guts spilled, even against a formidable enemy, they have no chance of winning. They will fight back until the bitter end. That is what an honorable death means to an Atalan. Thus, he would like to make him an offer. Will he hear it out? They continue speaking like this for a while, and after Khadim finishes explaining, he asks what he will do. The Baron tells him to give him some time to think, and wait in the guest room in the inner castle, as he will be giving him an answer shortly. With that, they are guided to the guest room, and after entering, Khadim tells Duncan to take the bed and rest. He puts his sword down, and sits on the sofa nearby. Duncan relaxes until he sits down and asks about that offer he made. Does he really think the Baron will accept it? Khadim notes that it's not a losing deal for him, and it's not like he has any other choice at this point. Duncan really thought things were going to go south for a moment there. For that Baron, who has been so accommodating, to suddenly be so firm, it was strange. He didn't seem like the type of person to refuse a guest request without a good reason, so why was he so stubbornly trying to block access to the basement? Khadim tells him that if he thinks a bit, the reason is pretty obvious, as Duncan wonders what that could mean. Suddenly, the door swings open and the Baron comes inside. Khadim smiles a bit. He made his choice sooner than expected, so what is his answer? The Baron just nods, and Khadim tells him to get ready. That night, as the moon hovers over the castle and the guards are continuing to keep watch, they suddenly hear a rustling right next to them, and immediately point their spears, demanding that the people who came identify themselves. It's actually the Baron and Khadim, with the Baron telling them to lower their voices. Delton doesn't understand why they are here so late. And what's with that outfit of his? The Baron tells him not to panic and pull himself together, as he is the officer in charge here. Delton understands, but he doesn't understand what this is about. What's with that armor and weapons? The Baron asks for questions later and helps them tie this rope first. They should tie it to the rampart pillars and secure it tightly, and whatever happens, they will not step outside the castle without his orders. The soldiers do so, tying the rope to the ramparts, and Khadim immediately uses it to jump off. Delton is impressed by his moves. He basically threw himself off, but he did it in such a languid way that it seemed natural. The Baron descends too, but before he does that, he looks at his warriors, Skalin, Odik, Kren, Bennick, Carold, Dawnpin, and even Delton. He entrusts them with a treasure more precious than his own life, the protection of Molden. The soldiers immediately get emotional, and the Baron drops down fully. Khadim has been waiting very patiently and asks if he's done with his goodbyes. The Baron is so, and Khadim notes that it's time to go kill Adlan, or whatever his name may be. Before they left, Khadim revealed to the Baron that his plan was that once the sun set, the two of them would ambush their camp. A sword and a single spear would be enough for his weapons. The Baron was confused. He wanted them to rush into the enemy camp with 2 people. Isn't that practically asking to die? Khadim asks if that wasn't what he was planning to do anyway. Khadim tells him not to worry. He is going to kill the Viscount Adlan in tonight's ambush. If by any chance they fail to kill him this night, he will help him defend Molden under the conditions he asked for. The Baron recognized what this is. A proud answer from a man who does not even consider his own death. If he hadn't seen this man's kills today, that's what he would have thought. Khadim continued, noting that if he was planning to die anyway, this would give him a chance to get rid of the main cause of the disaster. It's not a bad deal for him. They will hit the enemy until none are left. The possessed-looking guards continue their patrols, but suddenly a flying dagger flies into the neck of one of them, and the other barely even reacts, looking at his dead comrade with large, empty eyes. Before he can do anything more, Khadim jumps in and kills the man, putting a sword through his neck before pulling it back out. He thought it was strange during the day. However, these guys aren't acting at all, even with their comrades being killed right next to them. He takes a closer look and sees that they have thin, bony faces and skinny, skeleton-like bodies. He could not get a good look during the day, but they looked like they had been starving for at least a day or two. The other soldiers must be no different either. To be disturbed and still not abandon their posts can only mean one thing. He looks back at the Baron, who is staring a bit. But Khadim then turns his face to the objective and knows that they should go into the camp already. Once they do, they are met by the hollow guards, who are just trudging along like zombies. The Baron is confused. What is this? How can the soldiers be awake in the middle of the night, walking around the barracks without even taking off their armor? Suddenly, one of the hollow soldiers notices them, and they slowly all turn their heads, growling like mindless beasts. Khadim tells the Baron that he should stay here and kill as many soldiers as he can. He will go deeper into the camp and look around. The Baron asks what he will look for, and Khadim thought it was obvious. He will be looking for Viscount Adlan. Since he is the commander, the demon's evil will must be the strongest inside him. The Baron is surprised that he said something like this, and Khadim tells him to go wild with everything he has, until his dying breath. Aren't these the exact enemies who ruined his most precious treasure, his lovely city? Khadim then picks out 2 daggers and throws them, killing 2 guards on the spot, before grabbing both of his weapons and unleashing a flurry of mighty strikes, going through them like cheese, as these are nothing more than puppets. The Baron watches as he continues his own slaughter, the guards not having even a modicum of chance. Even those who muster enough strength to attack are swiftly dealt with by his mighty blade, which seeps the life force out of them. Khadim thinks that the deeper he goes into the camp, the harder they fight back, and the more vicious the soldiers become. Adlan must be concentrating the scattered evil will into a few soldiers to stop him, meaning that he has come to the right place. This must be the HQ tent. He goes inside, and he is met by Adlan, who is standing on a plush chair, and a few disoriented guards around him. With a wave of demonic force, he takes his energy back from them, allowing them to fall roughly to the ground. He then opens his eyes and tells Khadim that he did well to come this far, but he is still a shameless wild dog of the wastelands. Khadim smiles. This is rather interesting. Even in his first playthrough, he only got to cut down just a couple of these creatures. A possessed one, eh? Looks like he found a rarity, but he is not mad about it at all. The possessed one is surprised that he is laughing. He knows he takes pride in that insignificant strength of his. However, compared to his mighty authority, his strength is nothing more than a mere trick. He is willing to give him one final warning. He should leave, and not touch Molden, the Baron, or his prey. This place is an orchard that he has cultivated for eons, just waiting for the fruits to finally ripen to its sweetest point. Now that the moment to savor the harvest is at hand, Does he really think a stray dog like him waltzing in here will actually stop him? Khadim steps forward and puts his blades more firmly in his hands, noting that he sure talks a lot. The possessed one thinks that he is refusing to step back. It seems that he has truly decided to throw his life away, hasn't he? Suddenly, he lets out all his aura and tells him to say goodbye to his pathetic ego. From this moment on, the true master of that weak flesh of his will be him. He suddenly unleashes all that evil aura right into Khadim, whose eyes become like needles and begin hollowing out. The possessed one is pouring his entire consciousness into Khadim. Even the smallest crack of his mind will allow him to burrow in and take complete control over his body, meaning that he has now gained the power of a barbarian. However, the demon's smile falters as he sees that he cannot penetrate to his mind, something like another person peering in and pushing back. This is impossible. It doesn't make any sense. His consciousness is actually being repelled. Just what on earth is he? Why can't he possess him even when he is giving it his all? Khadim cracks his neck, apologizing for disappointing him so adamantly, but they are at full capacity already. There's not enough space in his mind for him. The possessed one is confused and rather angry. The only targets he has ever failed to possess before were high-ranking demons more powerful than himself. For a moment, he was terrified that this guy might be a high-ranking demon in disguise, but no matter how close he looked, this is nothing more than a hulking human. To think that someone of his prestige would lose against a mere human. He crushes the chair arms under his grip as he transforms, telling Khadim not to get ahead of himself. He is still a stray dog. If he cannot take his body and have it for himself, then he will crush it. He begins transforming slowly but surely, showing his true form and also his weaknesses. Suddenly he grabs a morning star and hurls it at Khadim, who manages to deflect the strike, but he gets pushed back slightly, and the axe he was given breaks as a result of this strike. He is extremely annoyed by this, but he doesn't have much time, as the possessed one lunges in again, forcing him to dodge this strike too, which almost breaks the entire tent. The possessed one is pleased. He acted so confidently, talking all that talk, yet all he can do now is stick his tail between his legs and run. He is a truly pathetic, miserable stray dog. Khadim doesn't even pay his taunt any mind, and thinks a bit about his situation. He has a mace that is the size of a human. Was it originally forced to be used by a man of this stature? A normal weapon won't be able to withstand the head-on collision right now, so there is only one thing left he can do. He looks back at the castle, and the possessed one guesses that he is looking for a place to hide. Unfortunately for him, he will not give him that chance. He managed to kill quite a few of his men, but he still has over 300 bodies he can use to stop him. The mindless soldiers begin charging at Khadim, who dodges their strikes with relative ease, and takes them out with that same ease, using mostly his blade and his axe. The possessed one tries to swing his mace at Khadim, who dodges in time, but it's pretty clear that if he were to get hit by something like this, he wouldn't be healthy. The possessed one tells him that there is no way, nowhere for him to run. He is just a stray dog. Khadim dodges the other incoming strike, jumping further, making the possessed one rather annoyed. He is certainly gifted at scurrying around and running away. Perhaps he should call him a rat instead of a dog. Khadim continues glancing towards the castle, confusing the possessed one. Why does he keep doing that? Does he really think fleeing now to the castle will save him? That is futile. He should have known his place before trekking mud all over someone else's yard. A human body cannot ever stand against a demon. If he wishes to kill him, he should have at least brought Helga's dogs with him. Maybe then they would have had a chance. Khadim agrees. He certainly is right. It seems like it will be difficult for him to smash through his puppets with his current strength. The possessed one laughs. Even he has realized it. How truly foolish he is. Khadim then turns it around though, asking about his real body. At the same time, Duncan peers over the wall, and Khadim continues speaking. When it comes to his true self, even a peddler who can't handle a single goblin could easily kill him, right? The possessed one finally realizes what happened, and feels his body being penetrated by something that feels eerily similar to a blade. He screams out, calling them all bastards, specifically him. He will rip them apart before they can do anything more. Khadim just laughs, as this is exactly the reaction that he wanted. In the past, as they walked together, Khadim told Duncan that the Baron was hiding a demon in the basement, surprising him. He was certain the Baron wouldn't let them go inside the basement because he was hiding some treasure or something down there. Khadim explained that, given the Baron's personality, he would have gladly handed over the treasure just out of gratitude for their help today. When a Baron who only values honor firmly refuses the request of a guest who has extended their hand like this, it usually implies he is hiding something. They eventually found a door leading to the basement, and now Duncan understood why he had given them the location so easily. It just had to be tightly locked with a ridiculously huge padlock, didn't it? Khadim simply ripped it open, and then gave Duncan a blade. He told him that he would head down to the basement once the moon passes its peak and starts to wane. Once he is down there, he will find a bizarrely shaped lamp of flesh and stab this dagger into it. Duncan sheepishly took the dagger and asked if he could really do something like that. He said they were dealing with a demon, right? Khadim told him not to worry. This will be easier than taking candy from a baby. The demon will be so busy dealing with him that not even a single trace of malice will remain in its main body, so he will not miss this moment. Sure enough, and now the demon can't reach its main body anymore. His malice isn't reaching his main body. Immediately he begins to crash out and grow even larger, repeating the same word again and again, which is kill. He will give them the most agonizing death imaginable. He will tear off every muscle in their limbs and rip out their guts, which he will then shove down their throats. Duncan sees that he is getting even bigger, and asks what kind of monster this is. Khadim thinks that even though its main body is dead, and it lost the ability to control its malice, the malice that had already possessed the vessel doesn't just disappear instantly. That would have been too easy. To say they've completely eradicated the demon, they have to destroy the flesh where the malice is trapped. The demon unleashes another deadly strike with the morning star, and Khadim dodges it and tries to hit him with the axe on the head, which now breaks completely. The demon laughs, calling him a fool. Does he really think a pathetic weapon like that would leave even a scratch? Something like that will not happen even in 1,000,000 years. Khadim gets out of the way of another attack and looks at his broken axe, and the demon continues. Since it has come to this, he will slaughter every last one of them in Molden, until there are only bodies. However, he will not live to see it since he is going to die right here. Suddenly though, Khadim calls out Duncan's name, who immediately agrees. The item he has asked for, he has brought it right here. He throws it pretty well for a normal human, but even so, he realizes that with his strength, no matter how hard he throws it, reaching him would be impossible. Khadim scoffs and thinks that Duncan shouldn't worry. If that really is a throwing axe made by dwarves, it will prove its worth on its own. Sure enough, the axe redirects itself in the air right into Khadim's arm and begins glowing a blue hue. Duncan is shocked. It accelerated on its own through empty air, crossing a distance of over 80 paces in more than an instant. Khadim thinks that the Baron really is something else. He should have just kept the demon hidden. To think that he'd leave such a masterpiece to rot away with it too. The demon is a bit more afraid now and explains that that thing was made by those crazy northern dwarves. How did they know about its existence? He came to Molden for that thing from the very beginning. Is that it? Khadim jumps up and notes that for a possession type, he sure talks a lot. Now then though, he will permanently shut that mouth of his. He mightily throws the axe towards the demon, who doesn't care whether it's a dwarf weapon. He will just smash it to pieces with this mace. However, when his mace makes contact with the throwing axe proves much more sturdy and breaks through with the same speed. The demon thinks that this is crazy. This makes absolutely no sense for a mace made of solid steel to be shattered into pieces. Just what kind of power? Before he can finish, the axe simply goes through his head, smashing a gigantic hole through it. Khadim thinks that this is excellent. It seems that he has actually acquired a pretty good weapon. Duncan slowly descends from the castle wall, and Khadim approaches the demon's corpse. The malice seems to be dissipating. If the main body was still alive, killing a few vessels like this one wouldn't have done much of anything. On the other hand, even if the main body is dead, if the malice possessed them as deeply as it did this one, there is no other way to get rid of the malice except by killing them. Though suddenly, someone appears behind Khadim. Duncan quickly tells him to get out of the way. As Khadim does, he sees that he was attacked by none other than the Baron, who has a pretty languid expression on his face. The Baron slowly turns around. It seems that the demon has possessed him, wondering if he really thought this was over. How could he ever lose to a shameless wild dog like him? Thank you for watching. See you next time.